Hello, welcome back. In last video we have seen how to set up Kubernetes cluster using Ubuntu system. I still logged into my Ubuntu system. Let me rename the session name. Kids Management Server. I will just rename it so that it would be easy to identify. Now I am jumping onto my Kubernetes master system. For that we should execute this command. Let's execute it. So I am on my Kubernetes master. This is my master server. Let's become a root over here. Clear the screen. Even though I mentioned Kubernetes management server, I am on my master system right now. Now, if I execute kubectl here, I can see the kubectl is working here. Let's execute the command kubectl get nodes. Okay, this is the command to get nodes. We have one master, nothing but this current system. You can see here 33.126 and two clients are there. Next, one more command is kubectl get pods. If you have created any pods, you can find pods over here. So far we haven't created any pods. You cannot find anything here. Similar way, deploy or deployments, both will work. So we don't have any deployments so far. You cannot get any deployments. Similar way, service. Okay. We haven't created any services. This is the default service which comes with the cluster, so it will be available, but we don't have any custom services over here. So usually what will happen in our case, we are going to create a deploy. Whenever we create a deploy, in the background it is going to create pods. How it create pods? Deploy is going to create a replica set, and replica set makes sure that your pods are always available. That's how it works. So parts are running with the application. That application can be accessible only if we create the service. Service is helpful to expose our application to outside. Otherwise, you cannot access your applications from outside of your cluster. Now we are going to test this one by running one of the deployment and service. For that, I have updated our document itself. Let's go and get the commands. So in the document itself, we can scroll down. Let me increase the font size. So to deploy Nginx on our Kubernetes cluster, we should execute kubectl run command. And sample Nginx is the deployment name. Whenever we are creating any deployment, we should give the deployment name followed by image. This image it pulls from the Docker Hub. Then replicas, nothing but how many pods do you need? We need 2 pods, so we are specifying replica as 2. If we don't specify replicas, by default it create only 1 pod. But if something goes wrong with that pod, your application won't be accessible. That's why it's better to create replicas so that your application is highly available most of the time. Then port, Nginx runs on port number 80, so we are specifying that one. Application should run on the port number 80 in the pod. So let's execute this command. So far we don't have any deployments. We are creating first deployment. You can see here deployment is created, and we can execute this command to see the deployments, or else we also execute deployment. Both will give the same output. And if you observe here, we have created a deployment called sample nginx. Desired how many parts does it require? It required 2 parts, and currently 2 parts are running. So whatever desired is there, make sure that those many parts are running all the time. That is the job of replication set. Next, up to date. Yes, these two are up to date and both are available. Sometimes it would be running, but it may not be available, and it created 10 seconds ago. Okay, that is how the output comes. And also we can execute this command. We can see the our parts by executing this command. We can see here it created 2 parts with the deployment name initially and followed by some characters added extra to this one. This is pod and this is container. Okay, pod and container, two are different entities. Within a pod, our containers runs. That all come in the dedicated Kubernetes course. Next, this pod is running and restarts 0 and it is running from 60 seconds. And also we can use one more option which will give some more details about these pods. You can see here, these are the pods, and pods have the internal IPs. By using this IP, we can access application, and you can see here, these are our node IPs. One pod is created in one node, another pod is created in another node, so that it would be highly available. Even though one node goes down, still your application would be accessible. But so far we have created only deployment. That's why we cannot access this application from the outside. We can access within the system, that is wget followed by the IP address and followed by port number. But port number 80 is the default port number, so even though we don't specify, we can able to connect to our application. It's connected and downloaded. And if I open this file, we can see the Nginx default file. All right. Now let me remove this file and clear the screen. kubectl get pods -o wide. I'm executing this command again. So now we could able to access these pods internally. If you want to access these pods outside of your cluster, then we must create a service for this one. To create a service, we have a command called expose, that is kubectl expose and deployment. What deployment we are exposing? Our deployment name is sample nginx, and on which port number we are exposing to the external network. External network nothing but cluster network. It is port number 80 and type load balancer. Whenever we execute this command, it is going to create a service, and service type is load balancer. We have different types of services are there: load balancer, node port, and few other. Depends upon the use case, you can choose the right one. So whenever we execute this one, it exposes our services to the external network and it exposes on a random port. This random port is commonly created in the Kubernetes. By using that port, we should access our cluster. So kubectl get services. If you execute, we can see here we have created a service called sample nginx and it is type of load balancer. This is cluster IP and external IP we don't get. In the cluster level, it is running on port number 80 and outside we need to access it from the 30001. This is the port number we should use. Now we can access this one from the outside, nothing but in the browser. So we should provide master server IP followed by this port number. So let's go and grab our master server IP. So I'm taking the master server DNS. This is master server, right? All the services running on Kubernetes cluster, we should access from the master node only. 30001 and enter. We should able to access our Nginx service from here. Problem here is this port number is not exposed in the security group level. Let me go and expose it in the security group level. So this is the security group which got created from our Ubuntu system while executing kops. I'm adding one custom port. What is that port? 30001. And it should be accessible from anywhere for time being. Save it. Now let me try to access it. Yes, you can see here, welcome to Nginx. Where this application is running on Kubernetes cluster, there is a pod is there, on that it is running. Now what I will do, I'm going to remove these two pods. So let's get the pods. To remove pods, kubectl delete pod and pod names. So whenever we delete it, what happens? Our application won't be accessible, but our deployment identify that the pods are not running and it recreates the new pods. Let's see. And if I access it, currently it could be down. Yes, you can see here it's created new pods, and let me get the pods now. You can see here new pods got created 13 seconds ago. Let me test it one more time. I'm deleting only one pod this time. Sorry, kubectl delete pod. And again, if I run this one, you can see here one pod is running from 61 seconds, another one is from 4 seconds, right? This is how we can create our deployment and services in Kubernetes. But in the real world, we don't create deployment and services by using the commands. We create a YAML files where it has all the definitions. We just need to execute those YAML files so that our pods get created. And also whenever there is a new deployment, we just need to remove the old containers. It pulls the latest image and create the new container. How it is going to happen, we are going to see in the next session. In next session, we are going to create service and deployment files, and we'll see what and all information is there in that. Thanks for watching this video and see you in the next video.